And we're live.
Welcome. I am Ron Newcomb from Reclaiming the Blade. We have an awesome night for you. Jedis from around the world are joining Steve and I in a unique discussion, not only about the blade, but about lightsabers, friend. You don't get any more exciting than that. Am I right, Steve?
I am very excited. I feel like it's 1977 and I am waiting in line in the snow.
Exactly.
I'm very excited about
this is fun. This is a unique slant of the blade, that there is a phenomenon that has transcended just the steel blade that you think of when you think of swords and fantastical elements. Now we can include the lightsaber. The unique saber that, of course, the genius of Lucas brought to us. So, how we're going to do this is we're going to talk, Steve and I, with several of our guests, Jedi from around the world, and we want you guys to chime in because this is a live talk. We want you guys to use hashtag RTBTalk on Twitter, and Steve will be searching and combing for any questions that you guys have. You can send your questions in and join us in this discussion. But we're going to prime the pump a little bit to get you guys excited, to kind of introduce everybody, see the direction that we're going, and then have you guys chime in. And of course, this is all leading up to a big grandiose day. We have a big day for the Blade coming this Saturday, August 3rd at 12 o'clock, an online unique event, an online convention, if you will. Huge guests, Richard Taylor from Weta, John Rhys Davies. I mean, it's going to be awesome. Starting at 12 o'clock Eastern Time this Saturday, August 3rd. So, starting from my far left, I'm going to ask you guys just to introduce yourself. Tell the fans, where can they find you guys online in case people get excited and they too want to be apprentice Jedi and move up the ranks. So, Alan, let's start with you, all the way on the left.
Thank you very much, Ron. My name's Alan Block, and this is Christopher Villa. We're both instructors at a lightsaber stage combat class and troop called the Golden Gate Knights. And for more information, you can check us out at goldengateknights.com. We're here in San Francisco, California, but we travel around quite a bit. We've been to the East Coast and hung out with our friends over in the New York Jedi as well, and so glad to be a part of here. Thank you very much.
Awesome, absolutely. So you guys are actually pretty close to Lucas. Have you guys gotten down to the ranch at all?
Not quite yet. We have checked out the Letterman Digital Arts Center, where we've had people from ILM and LFL come and take our class and stuff and invite us over there to check things out. I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of the Yoda fountain, but that's definitely one of our little pilgrimages that we like to do.
Oh.
And one of my friends actually worked on the Lucasfilm Ranch back when it was being constructed.
Oh, very cool.
Wow. In the late 70s or something like that, late 70s, early 80s.
Oh, that's outstanding. Yeah, I think a lot of us from around the world are jealous of that very fact. All right, Chad.
We got all the great stuff, all the great tie-ins, that were being for the Revenge of the Jedi and all that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I bet he could probably spill some beads. All right, Chad. Let us know where we can find you, brother.
How you doing? I'm from I don't know if it's a place, but we produce videos on YouTube and stuff for Terra Prime Lightsaber Academy. So we're trying to be kind of an open source lightsaber go-to place. We like to kind of call ourselves the Linux of lightsaber. It kind of bore out of a comparative martial arts project that me and a longtime friend of mine had been working on, and we're both sword nuts, and we've been looking for a good sword analog to do some really good sparring with minimal or cheap armor, and we stumbled upon these through our fandom of Star Wars, and we've been having a great time with them. We've got a website. You can see us on Facebook. We also do a weekly lightsaber hangout, just like this, on our YouTube channel. So any of those places you can come and see us.
Awesome, will do. Craig, over to you, sir.
Hey guys, my name is Craig Page. I work with Terra Prime Lightsaber as one of the resident masters. I am also a member and sometimes instructor with New York Jedi, which you will learn a lot more about 2 people down from me. So nice to see you, and I'm looking forward to having a good conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here for sure. All right, Al, talk to us.
Hi, my name is Al. I'm from the Fight Saber. We are a group bunch in Southeast Asia. We have several different groups. Basically, the main team is in Singapore, and there are branches out in Malaysia, Indonesia, and we also have affiliates in Brunei. Our group started not long ago, quite around 3 years ago, and we're just a collective gathering of some lightsaber fans and martial artists who prefer to work on stage rather than actually doing actual fights and stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Al, what time is it over there, sir?
It's 9 a.m.
Nice. That's crazy because it's 9 p.m. here. That's freaking me out. You're already into the future. All right, Flynn, take it away, sir.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Flynn. I'm the founder of, I'm pretty sure, the first Lightsaber Academy, where we actually taught lightsaber stage combat here in New York City. Started in 2005. Have the online website. It really took off. We've been interviewed by press all around the world. We've got to travel the country, doing various conventions in Los Angeles, and even north, and going into Canada and Toronto, down to Dragon Con, Atlanta. Conventions is where we get to perform what we train in New York City here. It's all lightsaber stage combat, but we do have a costuming element. So, but we really have the gambit open. It's whatever you want to wear, but we focus primarily on the training, and we tout ourselves as the true saber warrior school here in New York City. And it's a pleasure to get to finally meet a whole bunch of people that I've been talking to online for years. Al, thanks for coming in at 9 a.m. That's awesome.
Thanks, no problem.
Yeah, that's very cool. I mean, it definitely seems like a brotherhood. I'm kind of already getting. Steve and I will be. Well, they're not called apprentices, right? I mean, they're called. Do you guys call them apprentices, or are they Padwais, or what are they?
Apprentices with Padawans, yeah.
Padawans. Thank you.
Well, when you have students, yeah.
Hopefully, Steve and I will be inducted into a group, and we too will be able to be called Jedi. All right, Steve, I'm going to come back to you last. So we're going to go over to, is it Hugo?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes, I'm.
I see the Italian flag, sir. Hugo, take it away. Introduce yourself.
Okay. First of all, it's 3 a.m. in here, so I
oh
think
my gosh.
I think I'm the one in the worst situation, and I am a leading instructor of Ludosport Combat Academy, which is a sports school that practices lightsaber combat, not stage combat. So we are less interested in choreographies and more involved in real fighting. We are almost 200 in all Italy, and we have eight gyms where we practice, and you can find all information about us on ludosport.net/en, and on Facebook also facebook.com/ludosport.
Awesome. Well, welcome, man. That is outstanding. Yeah, you may be winning with the 3 a.m. Is it Yogan?
It can be. When I'm at conventions, it's Yogan. In real life, my name is Juan Leyva. I'm one of the masters with New York Jedi. I help run a lot of operations, and I'm also the admin on the Saber Wars site, which we use for community outreach throughout the giant worldwide interlie, as they call it. Flynn already kind of covered a lot of what I would have said, so I don't want to repeat a lot. But yeah, I mean, Ludosport, that's awesome. You guys focus on combat. In our group, there's a lot of people with different martial art and combative backgrounds, which I think is important to make a choreographed fight look real. I always say there's no more real a kick than a real kick. Just don't hurt the dude.
Yeah. And I took martial arts for several years. Of course, we go over katas quite a bit, which is a choreographed, kind of fight style. And all right. So, lastly, Steve, take us home. Definitely make sure everybody knows about not just. Of course, we're both with Middle Earth Network, but Legendarium, our fantasy slant as well.
Yeah. It's Legendarium. I'm the news director for Legendarium, which is at legendarium.me, and we cover everything from fantasy to sci-fi. So we have interviews, contests, you name it. So this is kind of exciting to have so many Jedi representatives here because, when I think of sci-fi, I think of Star Wars for sure. Like I'm pretty sure that most people do.
Yeah.
So, and again, too, in my background, I think I have about 20 years in Muay Thai. I've done a little bit of Italian rapier. I've done that for a couple of years. Some German longsword. So, I'm really interested on kind of the perspectives from the Jedi side of it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm quite intrigued myself. I'm not such a connoisseur of fighting, but I've definitely had my fair share from the Marine Corps to police department, and then I've been a D&D fantasy geek for quite some time and taking martial arts and try to have some fun. But so the next question, guys, that I kind of want to jump into, because I'm sure what a lot of people are thinking is, oh my gosh, this sounds phenomenal. This is really cool. Hopefully people are scouring the internet right now looking for you guys, seeing where the local club is, which is phenomenal. But few people, I'm sure, actually get to get paid full time to do something like this vocationally. So, I consider myself a filmmaker, but my 9-to-5, quite frankly, is I have to do IC at the moment until my filmmaking gig gets off the ground, so much so that I can make money at it full time. So how do you guys, kind of a two-part question. One, how do you guys pay the bills Monday through Friday? And then secondly, is this kind of element unique to you, or is this something that was you inherited from, let's say, an uncle, friend, or father that you kind of inherited into it? How did you guys kind of get into it? So talk to us a little bit about what you guys do 9-to-5, and then talk a little bit about kind of your background into that. How did you guys end up getting here? So again, we're gonna start with Alan on the left.
Thank you, Ron. So my 9-to-5, I'm actually a software developer. I work for a company called Change.org. If no one's familiar with that, it's basically an online site where people can create campaigns and petitions and make change in the world. And I think that kind of translates nicely to also my passion, in recreating a lot of those peak moments within the Star Wars films. That's why that's what really drew to me is, I'm a geek just like you, played a lot of D&D. I've done a lot of martial arts as well, but to me it's always been that sort of mythology and the stories within Star Wars that, ultimately drew me to want to create this class. So I didn't really inherit from anyone in particular. How about you, Christopher?
Well, I basically inherited this love of the sword and the sword fights from my brother, who was a few years older than I was, and from my father. I was raised in the military, and my dad was quite a heroic figure when I was a kid, so I have always been interested in military aspects. My 9-to-5 is actually more of a 12 noon to midnight, because I have for the last 35 years or more been a professional theater artist, primarily specializing in stage combat choreography. For 26 years, I taught at the University of California, Irvine, in the movement and stage. I taught movement and stage combat there for the undergraduate and graduate programs, and I choreographed probably over a couple hundred different fights in professional theater. So I'm coming back to this lightsaber because I was very interested in when it first came out. That's when I was getting into sword fighting in general. And now, meeting Alan, I'm swinging back into that direction.
Yeah.
But I've always been teaching sword fighting and combat. I had a great experience with my first teacher in sword fighting. He was a student of Joseph Vince and Gene Harrimans, who did quite a number of film fights. Gene Harrimans did Scaramouche and Prisoner of Zenda and the Three Musketeers of Gene Kelly. So I had that kind of an introduction, and that really fueled me. That's what really sent me over the edge, so to speak.
Oh, sure.
That was Albert Miranda.
Yeah, no, that's outstanding, Christopher. I mean, it sounds like, from a director, filmmaker type guy. Those choreographed fights is what I'm always striving. That realism is what I'm striving for. It sounds like
yes, me too.
agree with that.
Actually,
Yeah.
I was going to cite that The Three Musketeers was one of my inspirations, like The Prince and the Pauper, and the really old classic ones you used to see on Saturday mornings.
Yep.
That's awesome. Nice to meet you, Chris.
Yeah, you too. Well, we've met, Flynn, before. I was at Combat Con a couple years ago.
Oh, we did meet.
Yeah, we were in the same class with Nick, yeah.
Oh,
Awesome.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Blade Brothers. I like it. Chad, how about you, man? What do you do kind of during the day, and did you inherit this, or is this something that you found on your own?
Well, I didn't. What I do for a living is I actually teach martial arts. I teach traditional Chinese martial arts. I do that through my family's fitness club, which has been in the family. So in a way, I'm kind of inheriting it. Although my father was in coaching, and he's a big mentor for me. He's a tennis coach, but that all kind of coaching is coaching. So that's kind of where I got the passion for teaching and all of that. So I'm glad to be doing that for a living right now. I mean, that's obviously a tough thing to kind of get down at. As far as getting to the lightsaber, I kind of mentioned before, kind of like Ludosport, we're far more into the actual combat aspect of it, and that came directly from my martial arts, the love of martial arts and love of swords specifically, and of course Star Wars. I remember seeing the Star Wars when it first came out with my father. When it was the biggest thing, and of course the lightsaber was a huge deal. One of my heroes growing up was Zorro. I loved the Zorro, everything Zorro, and so when you have a magic glowing sword that can cut through any sword, that's going to go bananas over that, right? So that's kind of the natural progression how I got to where I am, and when I got into it, the community that is with these people, Flynn, Craig, all of these people here. I've had some of these people, on our program, and it's an amazing community here that you rarely see a lot nowadays, and it's really an honor for me to be a part of it. I'm kind of a newcomer to this, and everybody's been so welcoming and so just really, really enthusiastic about everything because we love it so much. And so we just really, really try to put out stuff that everybody can use, no matter what you're doing, what if you want to do for combat or for stage combat or just for exercise. I also come from an exercise background, human movement science, so I'm bringing all of that kind of stuff into it.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. One of the things I've kind of sense about everybody, we joke around about Blade Brothers, but there is kind of this true sense of love and passion for the blade and the art and the love of that. And if you haven't seen Reclaiming the Blade yet, the first film, it's a phenomenal film that I came across after watching Lord of the Rings. I kind of naturally transitioned, did the search, found it. You can still stream it now. You can go to reclaimingtheblade.com and find it. But currently, those guys, the lead producer, Daniel, and that team is currently trying to get Reclaiming the Blade 2 off the ground through a Kickstarter campaign. People probably know a lot about Kickstarter right now. If you go to Kickstarter and do a search for Reclaiming the Blade, or go to reclaimingtheblade.com or even rtbday.com, a bunch of different ways to find those guys, and on Facebook, they're trying to get funded Reclaiming the Blade 2, where they're going to dive more into unique things such as this, the lightsaber. I mean, how unique is that? That wasn't covered in the first film. Video game elements, the sword in video games, the sword in literature. There's a lot of things where the blade, the sword, has impacted us, and these guys are really trying to capture that, and I'm proud to be a part of that team too. But how many people in today's times, which is pretty unique, living in a gun culture world, that guys like us and gals too out there are keeping that love of the blade alive. And so I love the fact that Daniel and his team are really trying to make that happen. So if you haven't checked it out, they have a really cool video on their Kickstarter campaign. You owe it to yourself to at least go check that out.
Well, speaking of the Kickstarter, I'm reminded they're saying that they have a special going on right now for during this live event only, for $45 pledge to the Kickstarter, you will get an additional single disc Reclaiming the Blade added to your package.
Ooh,
So-
that's sweet. Who doesn't love? I mean, one of the only reasons why I buy DVDs nowadays is to go in and watch the special features and to watch people like. So check this out, Christopher. I'm sure you'll love this. These guys had Bob Anderson in one of the last films that he did. In fact, maybe the last film he did was Reclaiming the Blade, an interview with Reclaiming the Blade. Which is pretty daggone unique. Christopher, does that, draw any response from you? I mean, you don't get any better than Bob Anderson.
Yes. I worked with Patty Crane for a week at one of the National Stage Combat workshops, and he told us stories about him working on Master Ballantrae. I believe that was Bob Anderson's first film that he worked on. Patty said he just called every fencer he knew in England and had him come to work in the film. So,
that's fascinating.
Buzzword.
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, Darth Vader, basically the dude behind the mask swinging the saber, the red saber, which I'm going to get into a follow-up question with that later. But Craig, over to you. What do you do kind of during your 9 to 5, and then, is this something you inherited, something you found on your own?
So on my 9 to 5, I'm actually a mental health counselor. Still looking. I just recently graduated, so I'm still looking for work, but I am a trained mental health counselor. I'm usually in the hospitals dealing with patients with mental disorders who have had, or as I like to call it, they've had one really bad week. My off time, I am a amateur writer. I've written for New York Jedi. I've written for other groups. This was something I found on myself. I found by myself, literally. I did not come. Geekiness is not something that I inherited really that strongly, or at least not this in deep. I went to a convention in 2009. I ran into a stage show by New York Jedi, and I saw these guys doing fights, doing katas, putting on stage combat fights, and I'm going, wait a minute, I have a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I enjoy theater and working and creating characters. When can I join? Where do I sign? And I've been with them ever since, God help them.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's great. It's nothing better than kind of, finding it a little unique thing for yourself that you can take on and carry on, that you might be able to then pass on to someone else later. And then it catches on like wildfire. You start spreading it around and become like the messenger of the good news to everybody. So how about you, Al? Let's go to you. What do you do kind of during your regular day job? And
I'm actually still a student, so I don't really have a job. So most of the time I'll be doing my schoolwork and stuff. So on the side, I actually do some instructing for this group called Samurai Sports Singapore. They're doing Japanese martial arts, so we're practicing more of that. And I'm one of the instructors there. So how I got into the lightsaber circle is through cosplay. So in my area, cosplay is pretty much quite widely spread. So through the stage plays and all the events that we have, I actually found this group of people walking around with lightsabers and like, hey, how do I get into that? So
yeah.
Eventually I got a lightsaber from one of our local lightsaber builders, and we got together, sit down, have a chat, and we started this group Fight Saber around 3 to 4 years ago. So that's how I pretty much got into this stuff.
Awesome. Well, a student is a full-time job, sir. We all know that. So, no, carry on. Flynn, over to you. What do you do kind of during the day, and is this something that you inherited, or how did you come across it?
Well, I mean, when I was growing up as a kid, you find, you've got the TV and like you're trying to dial in these stations with creature double feature and all these like new phantasmical movies like Godzilla coming out of Japan and all this. And occasionally I caught some samurai movies, and that caught my attention. And of course I grew up on Black Belt magazine and studying ninjas and all this other stuff. And of course, in 1977 there was Star Wars. And I mean, basically, there's always something that I've been attracted to about the hero and the warrior spirit. And the fiction that's involved with Star Wars and all that stuff, and how it all ties together with the art. I mean, I wouldn't say that I not really inherited something. Like, I always knew that I wanted to study martial arts, but it was because, of course, of self-defense and that. But there was an honor about learning that kind of art that really appealed to me. By day, my career is I produce. I'm a website designer. I did most of the New York Jedi's stuff over the last couple of years. Big shout outs to Ruben Pelosi, who helped us with our new website, NewYorkJedi.com. And he really helped me catch up the technology that way. Also an events producer. You can see the lighting behind me. I work with LED lighting and audio and video installations. So when I saw lightsabers, I really enjoy technology and working with light. So to be honest, I mean, I kind of fell into teaching lightsaber. I've been taking, like I said, martial arts my whole life and different Japanese styles. I learned from a Japanese game show host named Rome Kanda. We did Samurai Tate, which is, I would say, I guess, Bushido, stage combat. Like, you have the robes and you have the false sword. It's not sharp, the show sword. So I learned a lot of the stage stuff as far as the sword stuff was from Rome Kanda. And when the lightsabers came out a couple of years ago from Master Replicas, they felt real. Real as balance could give you. I mean, if you studied any kind of weapons, you know that there's a certain balance to all of them. And this one it let you get a little closer to the intimacy of what it really felt like to have this amazing tool in your hand. And to be honest, I just took my martial arts experience, and as Chad and everybody else was saying earlier, everything applies. This is an amazing tool. Whatever you've been learning, you can just pick it up, and there's certain rules. You can't touch the blade. It's 100% cutting area, so your blocks are everywhere, your cuts are everywhere, and it's just a fun tool to stretch your weapons knowledge. And who knows, if it becomes real in the future, we'll all be ahead of the game on learning how to really use these things.
Yeah.
So as a martial artist, and adapting that style to a lightsaber, having that background, does it give you more knowledge on realistically fighting with a blade that doesn't have a dull side?
I would say absolutely. I mean, if there's one thing you learn most about using any kind of weapon is you learn about yourself, and you learn about your body and how your mechanics work. Regardless of blade or anything, this is a leverage weapon. So if you're striking or you're doing a sticky kind of combined motion or whatever, there's leverage involved with this. Just because it's not sharp, it makes it safe for us to practice these real-world techniques. I mean, you do the same thing with a wooden bokken for samurai. I mean, it's not sharp, but you understand the way it's supposed to cut. It's got rules, you know?
Yeah, no, exactly. I like it.
But
there's so much.
The honor code is the biggest thing I love about the sword. I mean, I'm totally on with everybody else here. There's something about the sword that brings out that hero in you, and that everybody connects with. That's the thing that I love.
Yeah, the warrior ethos is alive and well, even in today's time. Hugo, what do you say, man? Did you inherit this? And do you do martial arts kind of for your 9 to 5, or what do you do for your 9 to 5?
Okay, from 9 to 5, I work in advertising to live or to survive nowadays. And my inheritance in my heritage in sword fights comes from my family. I come from a family of sports practitioners. So I think that my well-known stubbornness comes from the iron in my blood. So probably, so I have this passion for blade, for the swords since I was a kid, and I totally share the passion for Zorro as Chad. So I can really understand that I was one of the kids that loved Zorro not for the black dress or for the mask or for the horse, but for the sword, essentially. So I started as a kid, and then I saw the second movie of the Empire Strikes Back, and the second movie of Star Wars when I was a young kid. and I discovered a world in which I could live the past, the scent of the past that swords have in a totally different setting, in a future, in something that is towards me, this further. There is not beyond, and so I found when I discovered Ludosport 7 years ago, I found something that made me reclaiming the blade. Again, is to discover, as Flynn said very very well, a connection with the weapon, a connection with an item, with something you can handle, something you can have in your hands, and something that is not only something you use, that is something with whom you are someone else. You become someone else. Me and my sword are the warrior. It's not just the sword, it's not just the man, it's the man and the sword, the man and the lightsaber in this case, which make the perfect or not so perfect warrior.
I love it. That's great.
I just wanted to cut in here. We got our first message from Twitter from I'm going to kill his name, Azmi Danuri. It was a message to Hugo saying he just wants to say hi to you and that it was nice of you to host him in Rome. So it's a shout out to you.
Oh,
very very cool.
Thanks for tuning in.
That's Alan's buddy down in Singapore.
Yeah, Azmi is from our group, Fight Saber.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I mean
also.
Yeah, this is a big group. You know, I mean, obviously it's international, it's worldwide, as we're proving here with just this chat. Juan, over to you. What do you do, kind of 9 to 5, and then is this something you inherited or something you found on your own?
Well, normally I feel like I'm always the least creative professionally compared to people I meet who are in production and theater and they're artists. And thank you, Hugo, for being in advertising. Although I think I'm still more boring. I'm actually in project management. I build offices. You know, I do a lot of budgeting and finances. Something completely unoriginal. But I was never the artistically creative type. I'm handier. I'm not this handy. You give me a wrench and, you know, I'll build you a bridge. So that's what I do 9 to 5 to keep me afloat. And for me, this was something that is odd. I wouldn't say it was inherited at all. In fact, I'm the oddball. My whole family and all my aunts and uncles, you know, they're all liberal arts majors, and I was a scientist. I was the engineer, and I want to know more about that. So for me, Star Wars is actually something that just kind of developed because, and here comes the blasphemy. I'm a Star Trek fan, big Star Trek fan. First True Love. Yeah, that's what got me into sci-fi, really. You know, but you can't get into sci-fi and not know what Star Wars. I mean, in this day and age, you can't be alive and breathing and not know what Star Wars is, unless you're Matt Lauer. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. You can't be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm of a time that I missed the movies in the theaters. I wasn't around when everything changed. I was born in a little third world country. I didn't go to theaters a lot growing up. My first experience with Star Wars was in the ether, floating around in the popular culture. And then on VHS. Yes, VHS. I'm not that young where it's, you know, Blu-ray. And, you know, just something you kind of casually grew up with but didn't really know you didn't embrace per se until you went down that rabbit hole. And what a trippy ride it's been. As far as what I do now, you know, just my interest in science fiction and all that led me to things, led me to Gundam, actually. Gundam have really, really, really large lightsabers. And that actually led me to Japanese culture because I was trying to read these stupid little trading cards, so I had to teach myself how to read Japanese. And that led me to the culture because you can't understand the language without the culture, and that was just floodgates. The Japanese ethos really came to kind of help define kind of what I enjoyed in life, a little bit of that warrior honor code, the system, not just beating on someone senselessly, you know, all these movies with guns and blasters, and it was just so impersonal, and the sword was something special there.
Yeah.
I ended up going into martial arts for many, many years. I was a Taekwondo instructor, actually. Made a little money that way, but never enough where I felt comfortable having my own school. You know, I always played the humble role in that respect. I don't think I'm quite ready to pass on it to someone. Let them ask, I'll show, but not where I'm preaching or anything like that. So that was my background from the martial arts perspective. You know, had some intros with, sometime with kendo and kenjutsu, and just sort of experience a bit until one day I was at my annual visit to the New York Halloween parade in the village, and I saw a bunch of these things just like floating around the street. And I was like, holy crap, what is that? Are those lightsabers? No way! Kind of like Craig Page's moment at Con, but for me it was in a dark alley, and I was like, who are those people? I must find them.
So
And,
is this considered, would you consider this a martial art?
you know what? I like to stick to clear, I'm big on processes and protocols. So, I mean, I always say it's choreographed, stage combat, but if you really want to look at it, there is a martial side to it. More important, there is a side to it. There's an art part to it. This is not a pugilistic, you know, sport we do. This is not some crude mixed martial, let's just pound on people somewhere. There is an artistic side to it. There's a code, whether you bring it yourself from your own background or you want to pull it from the annals of Star Wars-ness, if you will. The Jedi are good and we only do certain things. There is, I would say, definitely a non-combative, at least in our respect, martial art here. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that also there's in regular martial arts too. Like I'm from a traditional Chinese background, and so much of what we do is an anachronism already. It's not going to be directly applicable. I've found that through the lightsabers, we can really introduce these types of disciplines to people who may never have even, you know, thought about it. My favorite example is if I hand somebody a sword, or somebody sees me with my sword, the first thing they ask me is it sharp or is it real, right? The first thing somebody does when I hand them a lightsaber is either go boom, 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 or I am your father. So I mean, you can bridge that kind of timid, you know, being timid about a weapon, right? Which is normal for people. We don't live in a violent society anymore. So I mean, I would like to see a version into a new kind of modern martial art. Definitely.
Gotcha.
You know, I'm going to call TJ Glenn, who's an instructor that pops in every once in a while. He's been in the New York stage combat scene for a long time, Medieval Ren Fair and stuff like that. TJ Glenn, and I'm going to quote him. He said it gives you the cool factor of a sword without being as dangerous. You know, and that's really it's a nice gateway. I mean, we had, if you know what tonfa are, or the police batons, they've got the stick with the handle on the side of them. Well, yeah, there you go. Craig has one. But that's a whole new weapon, but it's got the glowy, cool factor, and it makes me want to practice. Like it's like the gateway drug for other martial arts, I think. But also,
right. It's just like Reclaiming the Blade or the documentaries. It spurs that. I mean, of course, we probably also Reclaiming the Blade and went nuts. So
I hope you guys all saw the bonus disc.
Well, back to
the
Blade, to the Reclaiming the Blade, though. I mean, in the Star Wars universe, you know, where it's kind of dominated by blasters and starships, you know, what is the symbolic meaning? How does the lightsaber fit into Lucas's world? And can we not apply that to, say, our modern world when it comes to, say, swords and modern guns? Like, what is it? What is the magic that holds lightsabers and blades?
That's a great question.
I can answer that. Yeah, Juan's already thrown me under the bus. No, it's all right. Just for the kind of background, I've written papers on the whole symbology of lightsabers. I've written papers on the 7 forms of lightsaber combat, which are a whole fictional subset of martial arts that writers for LucasArts wrote up, and that most of us try to emulate like there's no tomorrow. To me, a lightsaber is this. It is a symbol of you are a capable individual who is in touch with both themselves, the environment around you, to the point where you can hold and competently wield a weapon that is as dangerous as this. this giant plasma torch from hell that is a sword itself is dangerous. A lightsaber is all cutting. It's all singing, all dancing, all this will slice a door open in half. It is a badge of office and honor, and I think that's one of the appeals, is that it's showing that you have the right to hold it, that you, without being just some random punk on the street. Juan had said it earlier, guns, blasters, whatever, what have you, are impersonal. Any moron can shoot a gun. It takes someone with discipline and skill to hold a sword and furthermore hold a lightsaber.
Yeah, it's kind of this one thing that you guys, I think almost all of us have hit on one time or another, this hero warrior ethos that many of us share, and that many of us in fact feel called. This innate calling in us kind of gets pulled into that, and that's one of the things that I love about Reclaiming the Blade, the first film that it explores, and what I'm really excited about Reclaiming the Blade 2. I happen to be part of that production team of trying to develop that film, and their Kickstarter campaign is wanting to explore the Blade in that sense and go deeper into it, from the effects of video games in our culture to the Blade on the warrior ethos and the warrior spirit. Really does impact a culture, and it can be, it can impact a culture for good or evil. And so if you haven't checked out the video on our Kickstarter campaign, you really owe it to yourself to go to Kickstarter and then do a search for Reclaiming the Blade. The second film is going to be called Reclaiming the Blade Sons of Fire. So definitely check that out. Of course, we're on Facebook and the interweb, reclaimingtheblade.com, you can go to as well. But that kind of lends me a question that I wanted to ask, and I'm going to shoot it. I think just one of you can answer, so I'm going to shoot it to Flynn, if you don't mind, Flynn. We talked about the warrior ethos and the spirit and color spectrum. So when you guys choose a blade, does color say something? Does color signify certain things? Certainly in the films, I think it does. But help me understand that as a fan.
Well, I mean, obviously everybody knows about Anakin Skywalker's blue saber. Luke had a green one at one time. Yoda's is green. Is it because he is green, or is it because he was a master? You have the Masters, you have the Sentinels, you have consulates. I mean, all these colors mean something in the Star Wars universe. From my perspective, as far as where you go to good to evil, the bad guy always has the red lightsaber. So how close do you get to that line? In Tibetan Buddhism, like I bring some meditation techniques into our training as well, because I've had like 20 years of Buddhist practice, meditation, understanding all that. If you bring in where your anger is or where your awareness is, it's called riding the razor's edge. And Mace Windu, there was a book about him, it's called Shatterpoint. He actually explains that it's like a sword style that he practiced was called Vapad. Now Vapad, or Joyo, I think it's known as the Sith mythos, you almost fall to the dark side. You go there, but you don't go there. So my lightsaber is orange because I think that's where that razor's edge color should be. So that's how my character was developed. That's just talking about the colors. Personally, my favorite color is orange. So that's the reason why I really chose the orange color.
Gotcha.
But I want to bring Chris and Alan in on this feedback too, because Alan, when you were out here, we talked about the hero thing. What we do out here in New York City, the predominant theory is hero building, because if you look at Star Wars and the whole mythos behind that, Joseph Campbell, the hero's journey, there's a story attached to this hero. So what we encourage people out here is there's a hero inside of you that you need to get out. So we're going to build that up. Where does that hero come from? But Alan, like we were talking about, I'd love for you to talk about that, especially Chris.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, just to circle back to what you were talking about, like what is the symbolic meaning of the lightsaber? Obi-Wan said it well when he said it's a more elegant weapon for a civilized time. that in the middle of you know, blasters and dark side and, you know, all this terror happening, that you have this weapon that not only, you know, symbolized the idealism, the chivalry of yore, but also was quite effective at the same time. So you have, you know, our young heroes who, you know, out of all things, you know, decided to focus on that, you know, to wield the saber, to try to embody that deep sense of, I guess you could say, chivalry, heroism,
self-confidence.
Yeah, self-confidence. Yeah, yeah. I really like what was said earlier about how the saber also demonstrated connection to not oneself, but also to the force, to this, you know, larger world that everyone's a part of. And I think that's that kind of self-actualization that we, you know, personally in our class, you know, try to cultivate. You know, we want people to step into those heroic roles that they, you know, that inspired them when they were children.
Yeah, I am all about Zorro. I mean, it's, you know, let's go Zorro all from the start. You know, it's the whole thing about the person who sees injustice, and he sees that there's only one person who can do anything about that injustice, and that is himself. And whether he dons a mask or changes his costume or assumes whatever mantle he does, he picks up the same weapon everyone else is using, and he uses it to defend and to make sure that the right thing to do is always the thing that is done. And he has to face an insurmountable obstacle, or, you know, he really has nothing to fight against. And that's a unique factor of some people who can actually rise above the situation they're in and do something heroic, which means just focusing yourself on doing the right thing at the right time for the right people. You know, and it's not about yourself at all. It's all about doing the right thing for someone else who has no champion. And that's what picking up the saber's about.
Yeah, like Obi-Wan laying his life down, you know, at the moment of the pinnacle crux of the climax of the Star Wars #4, when Luke looks over and Obi-Wan lays his life down, you know, so that Luke can transcend to a better place and become the man he's born to be. Let me ask my international connection, and so I'm coming to you, Al and Hugo. Let's say I'm kind of new into this, and I go out and I purchase my lightsaber. One, is there a particular brand that you guys prefer? And then two, do you do any aftermarket, you know, sprucing up, or do you even start from scratch and make it on your own? You know, talk to me a little bit about. I'm kind of interested in it. What do I do, Al? Where do I go?
First of all, we have for our group, we have our own lightsaber builder. It's called Kid Sabers. He basically builds most of our lightsabers, considering that the ones you buy in stores by Hasbro tend to break easily. I mean, in relation to what we do, as in what we do with the kitting of the blades and everything, it easily breaks. So what we do is we build our own, and some of us bring in stuff like this is from TCSS Sabers. Basically, we also build some of them ourselves, as in we import them in and then we bring them in so that we can really hit stuff with it. It's more durable on stage, considering that some of us actually do fling our sabers off stage and it's somehow landed in the wrong position, so we don't want anything to break. So the best is if you could find a custom saber builder or a place of your own. You can get them for all these lightsaber needs.
I love it. Hugo, how about you guys over in Italy?
I can talk for myself, telling you that I personally purchase lightsabers on the internet because I tried to make one by myself and it wasn't so good. Most of us have their own lightsabers by purchasing them on the internet, but we have also a group of pupils who prefer to make them by themselves. And one restricted group of 5, 6 persons, they can do something really remarkable with sabers very well crafted, and so I think it's not impossible to build by himself a lightsaber. You just need a real accuracy, skills, and passion, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you got to have the passion to do something like this. But isn't
I
that,
just have the passion.
yeah, isn't that what the blade is all about? You know, it's different than like Stephen mentioned, picking up a gun or something. Blade is different.
Yeah.
It creates that.
I always found that with the lightsaber for a Jedi, it kind of forced them to show a little more control, because it's easy to blast someone, from 30 yards away, but you have to be committed to get within 3 feet of someone.
Yeah.
And I always found that that's kind of a symbol of control as well, right?
Yeah, I'm sure. The Force also kind of helps a little bit. So,
and I always thought that maybe Luke had an advantage, right, in the future when he was kind of training and fighting, because as far as I had known, there hadn't been any Jedi seen in 20-some years. So it must have been very intimidating to see that coming towards you as a stormtrooper.
Actually, in some of the novels after set after the original trilogy, people were actually looking at Luke and being worried. Like they were either revering him or going, "He's the first person we have to get rid of if we're gonna get our insidious plot through." So Luke was the unique factor in that.
Yeah.
Because he had the Force, he had a lightsaber, and he was the X factor that no one was actually sure of anymore.
So talking about Luke and Star Wars, I'm sure everybody's excited, and like we're all giddy little schoolgirls thinking about Star Wars, and beyond what that might look like. Disney's talking about doing a theme park, and the films are supposed to be starting, I think, production in 2 months' time now. The camera's going to be rolling. I'm excited. I can't wait till they come out. I'm a film nut. I love it. I'm passionate about it. So one of the things that I'm always looking to do as a director is to learn about the craft of showing a sword fight on screen that sells it. So I wanted to ask your guys' opinion. I'm going to go down the line as we start to come to a close a little bit. So you guys are going to give me an insight of the film as a director I need to go to, of the fight scene that kind of just changed your life. Help me understand what fight scene is out there. And we're going to start the other direction. So Juan, we're gonna start with you first. What film should I go to see the fight scene with the blade? Any blade.
Wow, that's such a heavy question, especially with this kind of panel here. Unfortunately, I'm kind of a bit of a child of the Chinatown basement DVD, VHS kiosk guys. So I've seen a lot of nameless kung fu Asian flicks with horrible dubs and all that jazz. So I couldn't name you half of them. But I would say in recent years, I've kind of shifted from the sword fight. I think it's phenomenal, but I think there are a lot of good examples of it out there. Some really good choreography. And one of the things I always try to bring into the work I do is more open hand stuff. So I would say recently, and now I'm forgetting the name of the movie, but it was, I want to say it's a Malaysian flick, and it was this like SWAT type group of cops running into an apartment building that's owned by a drug lord, basically.
The Raid. Exactly.
Yes, The Raid. Thank you. The choreography in that was phenomenal. I mean, it wasn't sword work, but precision, nailing hits, the accuracy of it all, and how well they sell it. It's like, that guy should have died. But it's a movie. He didn't really die, but he took a hella hit. I mean, just the blocks they were working with, blocks and everything. For me, that's been one of the best I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, there is a cool knife scene in there.
Yes, there is. There's actually a cool knife scene, and Craig, there's a really cool tonfa scene in there.
Yep.
Really?
Single tonfa doing locks and grabs with a free hand to get his butterfly knife in and out. I mean, little saber dagger, and that would be one heck of a scene.
Yeah, no, the Raid is brilliant. I love it. Hugo, how about you, brother? I'm going on Netflix right now. I'm gonna get my sword film together. I put Reclaiming the Blade at the top. What else do I put in there?
Really, I have in mind kind of 50 films, so it's very hard to. I dare say that details are the key. I found often in little close-ups of movements or positions or more rather than in large fields or total cuts, because I find, for instance, think about all the fightings in the Bourne movies.
Yep.
Okay, they're not sword movies, but you can find an effective and fantastic sense of real. And even in little details of blocks or parries or blows that made probably little scenes with 1 minute length, and not so long, but you can have the effect of a real fight. I think the realism is the key, and the realism you can have it by acting. Probably someone can think that the key in fighting on screen is the fight, but the acting is also important. It's important in the position of the body. It's not in the smirks or the grins. Is in the position of the bodies. Is in the harmony of the parts. And so I think the accuracy in details is the key to make a good fighting scene in a movie.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you gotta have the talent with the actors to bring it in for sure. I hear you on that one, brother. Flynn, how about you, man?
I'm just going to sum it up really fast. Probably everybody here will say this one: Princess Bride. Bob Anderson. It's one of the most famous fights he ever did. He was in the Darth Vader suit. Empire Strikes Back.
Mm-hmm.
That's my saber scene. But if I put it back to Kurosawa, and I can't remember the name of the film. It was about Miyamoto Musashi, and learning about that man, the only undefeated samurai ever. Book of Five Rings. It's one of the books I live by. My sword work and that. That's pretty much where I'll put it.
Yeah, I love it. No, yeah, you can't go wrong with Bob Anderson. I mean, that guy was a true master, and nobody can really deny that. So
Nick Gillard. We actually got to study with Nick Gillard a little. Chris in Combat Con a couple of years ago. Nick Gillard said that the best way to saber fight is to know how to dance. That's how.
Oh, awesome. I like it. Al, how about you guys? Give me a film.
Basically, most of my influence comes from the Japanese culture, so most of my media references is from Japanese movies. So the most recent movie I watched was like the Samurai X. They had this really incredible fight scene between Kenshin and one of the protagonists in the movie. So that was the most coolest fight scene for me. But when it comes to